All right, welcome to lesson number 4. In this one, we'll be making pegs, which are slightly different than kickers. The kickers would push the ball away, while the pegs, they just bounce off of. And they don't add any energy to the ball. Because the kickers push the ball away, we just had it kind of just turn away and just shoot away from it. The pegs, we're going to have a more natural bounce off of. So it's going to be a slightly different thing. And I have an image here that kind of shows what it's going to do. All right, so the white one is the ball. So what's going to happen? What happened before was we would just bounce off from going at this angle right here. Okay, so we come in and just shoot away going like that. What we want now is to come off at this angle. So, and if you notice, it actually, you take the angle that we turned and basically double it when you bounce off. Okay, so there's a couple things we have to do. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 things that we have to code in there. First is store as angle. We'll make a variable to do that. The next one is turn to face the other sprite, which we did before with the kicker. And then we have to make another variable called incidence, or angle of incidence right here. And we're going to make it equal to the direction of the ball minus this angle. Okay, and then we're going to take that and we're going to turn 180 degrees minus the angle of incidence that we saved up earlier. Okay, and all that together, those 4 lines of code will make it do this motion. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'll move it over like this. Here we go. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to make me smaller, and we'll bring it down, and we'll make it so you can see the words, so we can follow along as we're going. Okay. All right. So the first thing is we have to make a method, or we make. Some people call it a method. Some people call it, in here they call it blocks, and we call it functions. Okay. So it's a function making a block, and we're going to call this hit peg. So what happens when we hit a peg? And we're going to have an input, and the input is going to be, we're just going to tell it which peg, which peg we're hitting, which peg, right there. And so we say okay. So I like to name things so that we know what they are, and it sticks things in weird places sometimes. So let's find out where it put it. Put it down here. Find kicker. All right, we'll make it work. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is the same thing we did as with the kicker. Is like, okay, if we're touching a kicker, then we'll do something here. So if, and then in sensing, so we'll say touching. Let me zoom in. Oh, wrong way. Zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. All right, if touching, which peg? Okay, so which peg are we touching? And the answer to that question is basically in the block called hit peg. And I just say, hey, you hit the peg. Now, where's our peg? Let's make one real quick. Okay, kind of jump the gun here a little bit. So we're going to pick something real simple. Let's do the basketball. Stuck it in there. I'm going to make me big again. This is almost the same size. Pegs are usually smaller. You can quickly change the size by changing that's like a percentage. So we can say 60% and enter, and then now it's a much smaller peg than the ball. So there we go. And I'm running out of light. There we go. Come on. All right. Motion detector for light in my room. Okay. Now that we have that, we're ready to go. And I'll minimize me so we can see the ball code. more, and all this. Okay, where do we go? Now that we have a basketball, we're going to call it a peg right here. Peg. Now it's called peg. Click back on ball. Now we can type in the word peg and it will know what we're talking about. Okay, so if touching, and then we say which peg, because as we copy paste this down for more pegs, we want this code to be able to morph into whatever we want. That's the whole point of the variable, so it can vary into what we want. Anyhow, so touching the peg, now let's do this stuff. Okay, so store original as angle. That's done with a variable. Variables are used for all sorts of stuff. We've used 4 of them so far, sort of speed, friction, gravity, and gravity angle. So let's make another one. It's not hard. We've done it a bunch of times. We're going to do it for this sprite only, and it's going to be called angle. Okay, so the angle of the ball. We say okay, it actually says ball angle on the actual thing that it creates there. And then we're going to have another one down here called angle of incidence. And so we won't call it that whole thing, we'll just say incidence. I don't know how to spell. Okay, for this sprite only, again, incidence. Okay, say okay. Now we have both of those. Now we're ready to code with both variables. To store, all we have to do is say set, and then we say angle to what? Direction. Where's direction? It's in motion, all the way down at the bottom, right here. Drag it in. Okay, so set angle to direction. First one done. Next one is turn to face the other sprite. That's easy too. All right, so point towards the other sprite. So it's going to be the peg, whichever peg we are hitting, okay? And then the next thing is a little bit of math. So we need to set the angle of incidence. So we're going back down to variables. We're going to set, that's kind of like this equal sign right here. See the equals? So set and what incidence to direction minus angle. So we need a operator with a minus sign. Go ahead and slap that in there. And let's move this whole thing over so you can see better. We want direction minus angle. Direction is in motion at the bottom of the motion section. And angle is the variable that we created just barely, so you should know where that is. Right here. So direction minus angle. That's easy. So the last thing we have to do here is turn 180 minus the angle of incidence. So go to motion. And I think you have to do the turning to the right. Let's double check here. We'll do it, and if it does it wrong, then we know we did it wrong. Okay, so we need another operator. So let's go to operators, find another minus, slap it in there. 180 minus angle. So you just type in 180, and then angle is our variable that we created, and slap that in there. Let's make me bigger. Do this, and then let's run it. Oh, I'm going to slow it down and come up. Okay, just have the ball. Oh, try to, oh, what happened there? There's some interesting things. So I think we have the wrong direction. Let's try the other one. Turn left at that. See what happens now. Oh, we're getting some more weird things happening. Oh, that's even worse. Okay, maybe it was right. Turn. Let's double check here. Oh, I did it wrong. Angle of incidence, not minus angle. Haha, here we go. Variables, we want it minus incidence. Get rid of that. Okay, now, yep, let me go back to full screen here. Yep, that's wrong. We are going to get this right eventually. And you should work. Boom. So it should just graze off the side. If it just barely hits it. Boom. Yep, we got the right motion now. So test it. Yeah, even I make mistakes. There we go. Get rid of that one. So here is the right one. All right. Boom. There's a problem though. That's the problem. If the ball goes too fast, it could get stuck. And that one I knew existed. And we do have a fix for that. There's a really quick, easy way of doing this. You ready? We're going to create another function that we're going to use a lot. We're going to stop that. Okay, so what happens is if the ball overlaps the peg, it gets stuck on there doing that code. It turns and turns, turns. It just keeps getting stuck. And so when we're having it do that movement, we want it to just be barely just kissing the peg and not overlapping it. So we want to do something called a back off. So we want to, as soon as it hits it, we want to back off until it's just barely touching it, or just barely not touching it. And so let's do that. My blocks, I'm going to make one more block and then we'll be done. So make a block and we're calling it back off. Back off. What are we going to back off of? Well, we're going to be backing off of a lot of stuff. Okay, so like like object. Which object are we going to be backing off of? A lot of things. So we just put whatever object we're backing off of in the variable. All right, and I'm not going to click this, but I'm going to do it on purpose because I want you to see what happens if you don't. We will come back and click it though. Anyway, so and find the tab that it creates. It's floating out there somewhere. And so for backing off, basically we just don't want to move backwards. Okay, to move backwards, you just say -1. All right, but how many -1s do we want? It depends on how fast you're going for how much you're going to get overlapped. So we want to be able to adjust it accordingly. So we're going to repeat that in a control. We're going to repeat until. Okay, that's like repeat forever until this condition is met. All right, so repeat until we're not touching the peg. So if you kind of just say what you need to do, it starts giving you an idea of what you need to code. So I need to back off until I'm not touching. Okay, so where's touching? It's in sensing. Sensing has the touching, but there's no such thing as a not touching. So if I stick that in there, that's not going to work unless we modify it. And in operators, we have these modifiers that are, these words. We have a not. And you can just stick a not in front of anything, which is kind of cool. So if you want the opposite, you can just say a not, which is a thing they used to say if you ever saw like a Bill and Ted movie, they say not a lot, and that just means it's the opposite of what they just said. So or they say there's non-heinous or something like that. Anyway, so repeat until not touching the object. Okay, so make sure you drag that down in there. So repeat until you're not touching whatever I told it to not touch, and move backwards. So, but we have to call this. We have to say, hey, do this code. To do that, within the hit peg command, we have to call it. And this is going to be kind of crazy, but we're doing a function inside of a function. And you're going to back off, put it right here, not up above, right inside the if, back off, the same thing. So, and when we type in peg here, it comes here and it sticks into all these, and right here, it sticks it in over here, which sticks it into here. So it just keeps populating the word that we type in to the variable spot right here. And as long as it has the right name over here, you're going to be fine. If you misspell this or don't capitalize the P on peg, then you're going to have a problem. All right. So this, like, I'm going to overlap it on purpose and run it, and you'll see that it backed off and then goes. Now I said I didn't check it on purpose so you could see it in action. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it. I'm going to go into the back off. I'm going to edit. I'm going to say run without screen refresh. And now it's going to run so fast that you won't see that. Okay, so make sure all of these, edit, we forgot on that one too. So make sure all of them are checked, and that puts these in turbo mode. Anyway, so that's the end of this one, except for the fact that I want to show you one more thing, sorry. That is duplicating and then changing your code. Come on. All right, I gotta click on ball there. Anyway, changing your code so you have, come on, peg 2. So make as many pegs as you want, put them where you want, and add to your code. So you have, 2 to 4 pegs will be fine, and just have fun with it. Anyway, there you go. That's the end. Oh, not quite. You got to save it. Go File, Save, and then File, save a copy, and then make this say 5, and get rid of that, and then File, save that one. Okay, so now we have one for 5 ready for the next video. And now we're